Hello and welcome to Flory Models. For this particular build, we are now at last, after 2.5 years and 3 years of waiting for this kit, going to be building the perfect grade 1/72 Millennium Falcon by Bandai. Now there's lots of claims with this kit. Obviously Bandai say they've done their research and found out all the little scribbling bits on this one of all the little, all the aftermarket bits and various bits and pieces they used for the original kit were made from Bandai and various things. Again, I imagine a lot of those probably were Tamiya and other people's, but anyway, they've said that a lot of them are in there, and they've managed to go through their back catalogue of all the parts and things and identify a good 90% of all the parts that have used on this one and be able to recreate them, giving us technically the closest thing to the real thing we're ever likely to get. Now, you might remember we did a full kit review of this one and a side-by-side comparison with the actual Fine Molds kit. Now, the Fine Molds kit, which again was reboxed by Revel recently, absolutely was the way to go, and it was nice, but this one side by side should really just take it to the next level. As I said, I've been waiting to do this kit for basically 2.5 years, and finally we got around to actually doing it, so it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to go completely out of the box with it. I know nowadays there's a few aftermarket parts available, but we are going to go out of the box with it, and being obviously Bandai, it should be a totally painless build right the way through, and then we can get a little bit creative at the end with the weathering and various things. So if you want to go skip ahead a little bit, you can see exactly what we did to the smaller 144 kit, which we did last year, but now it's time to actually tackle the monster. So anyway, let's get on with it. Okay, so here we go. We're going to do it pretty much as the instructions has it laid out, and then we'll deviate as is necessary. Now, the first thing you can see down in here, it calls out for testing the light pack. Now this is your light pack. It's a pre-assembled unit and it's pre-wired, and I've plugged all the little things in here, and really this is just to make sure that your lights are working in the particular sequences and things like that. So you just want to plug them all in, and then obviously we'll just turn that off and then turn them on in situations just to see, and obviously they're varying degrees of brightness, and then I see these, we're assuming this is probably the engine, okay, with them all. And you've got a very simple system just down in here, but pop some batteries in it, just check it, because it'd be nothing to worse than you put it all in there and suddenly you find out you've got a dud LED. Now the chances of that happening are pretty remote, because let's face it, modern LEDs, they just don't sort of break like that and all the rest of it. But it talks you through in here the setup and how it actually goes, and to be honest, it's overcomplicated the way it is in there, but obviously making sure you've got the right LEDs for your right areas, things like that. Okay, so just familiarise yourself with those, and I think it will just make things a lot easier. Obviously it works, so we're all good on there. Okay, so just down in here we've got the section, so we've got basically Chewie and Han in the front, and then whoever you're going to have in the back. At the end of the day, it's not going to have to be detail painting with this one. You're not going to see too much in there. I will do a basic job, and I'm just going to have Chewie and Han in the front of it, so if we are doing a sort of in-flight pose, something else like that, we've got that base covered. Okay, so basically it's got the seats and putting them in. We're not going to worry about that, we'll do that a little bit afterwards. What we've done over here, we've actually worked on the cockpit section. You can see it's all we've done is put in the actual seats, and this, to be honest, it isn't even glued. It's typical Bandai, so this will, I hope, pull back out. So yeah, it just literally unclips like this. Okay, so it's very, very straightforward how all that goes. All right, and being Bandai, you probably could get away with that glue, but I probably will end up gluing it. We've got the control yokes put in and stuff like that. Okay, so really that's that section just up here, taking care of that one. But when we're looking ahead and working our way down in here, the problem we've actually got, and you can probably see it in here, we've got fantastic raised detail, which is absolutely gorgeous, and on both sides. The rear bulkhead is clear because obviously it's going to have LEDs showing through the lights and everything, but it's all raised. And what they would have you do is pop, I haven't actually got these out of the bag yet, the actual decals onto it. But as we all know, trying to fit decals onto raised detail is just going to be an absolute nightmare, purely because you're going to get bubbles in it, and trying to get it to conform and lay flat, you're either going to be spending a week with the micro set and soles trying to get this stuff to bed in, or you end up going to have a little bit of a mess in there. So you've really got two options: sand off all the details, or pretty much most of them, and then just go through the motions of actually putting the decals onto it, and away you go. And to be honest, that's probably going to be my way. Okay, or if you are very clever, probably dry brush a lot of this one and then go in and pick in the details by brush and going through that way. I'm more akin to doing it, the actual sand it all off and putting them in, purely because trying to get even the hand painting in on how this is done is going to be an absolute nightmare. Now there is various lights down in this back bulkhead, as you can see in the clear part. So what I'm actually thinking then is to put the decal onto it, drill through the decal with some micro drill bits, and then come in there with a tiny bit of clears of, like, you know, green, yellow, red, things like that into the back. So within the LED, and that's how it's going to project on the back here, it will then show through from the front as being in. Also, we've got these bars across the top which don't have anything on there as well. That's why these are on to diffuse the light. So again, you've got that light coming through from the back. And to be honest with you, from the front section, you're only going to see really the back wall. It's going to be very difficult to see these side areas. So what I'm thinking is, be honest with you, is to come in with a coarse sanding stick. So we've got this little guy just down in here. And what we're going to do is remove the surface detail. And we're not going to take it, you know, to completely flush, but what we're going to do is make sure we take out the high sides. Okay, and take off anything that's really going to get in the way. So by using a skinny stick, as you can see just down in here, we can get rid of all the high stuff. So we're just got the bits that we worry about. Okay. So really what you're going to be doing is you'll be taking out this panel, which is quite nice anyway. That's quite lumpy, and the top one on this. This one that runs around the side down in here, I'm thinking we can probably get away with a little bit of dry brushing. But again, if you wanted to, you could actually remove all of that, because down in here, we have that entire section. So you've got all of this running around the front, these bars as well. So if you want to, take it off. At the back here, to be honest with you, I'll probably just get one of our sanding squares. One of these guys, we use a coarser one. Okay, so literally we're just going to come along, put this down on this, and then take it all off, or taking it back literally until it's pretty much there. What I would say is leave a little bit, so when the decals go in and they can form around, it gives a little bit of three-dimensional. But to be honest with you, I think purely we're not going to see it. But my hand painting skills, as we all know, are terrible, so I'm probably akin to doing it this way. So we're going to take this one out. The rear door area, to be honest, there's not a great deal in there. You can see it's basically grey, so if you wanted to, you could hand paint that in. And if you wanted to give a little bit more depth on that cushioning around the side that actually goes down the tunnel, you could, if you wanted to, hand paint that as well, just to give it a little bit more depth. But as for the rest of it, I think, you know, basically that would be fine. So what we could actually do is put the decal onto this one and go forward. What I am going to end up doing though is, because I'm worried about light fasting, you know, we don't, the last thing you want is to have like a, you can see roughly where the LED is behind or something else like that. I'm probably going to paint it all gloss black, and the same way as I'm going to paint these. So I'm not just going to sand this off and put the decal onto it. We'll paint this one with gloss black. So again, the decals have got the best possible thing of going on and gripping and conforming and stuff like that. Because I think if you just went straight onto the plastic, they're not going to bite as nicely and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is sand off all the details on here, all the details on the front here, everything else like that. I'm going to give it a coat of gloss black. So from my point of view, it literally will be my favourite, which is Tamiya X1. And then we're going to give it a couple of hours to go off, and then we'll come back together and we'll get these decals installed onto it. Okay, so I think it's definitely the right decision. So what we've done, we've got this one over here, just had a coat of black, gloss black, and as you can see, you've still got some detail in there. We haven't taken it totally out, but actually it's on there. And to be honest with you, I've used the fast drying or rapid drying lacquer thinners. First time I've used them actually with Tamiyas, and I have to say this normally would take a good, I would say, half an hour to go off, maybe a little bit more, but this is 10 minutes later and it's bone dry and rock hard, so I'm actually quite a fan of that stuff, so I'll be using that a lot. So if you've got quick jobs, highly recommend it. But you see it's still quite glossy in there as well. So what we've got over here is these. Now, thing to remember, all Bandai decals, you see the numbering thing down in here, and I'll leave one on to prove the point, but they have a habit of dissolving. Okay, so when we say dissolve, they don't seem to have any carrier film on the numbering. So what can happen is the bits of it, we'll leave that one actually on there, we'll take all the others off. They actually just disintegrate, and what can happen is you get tiny little bits of black from this go absolutely everywhere. Okay, so usual thing, I've got a bowl down here, just got some tepid or warm water in there. We'll just pop that literally in there. Okay, and Bandai decals are usually pretty good. And if we see this little guy just down in here, hopefully you'll see what will happen in a moment. This number here will start to literally dissolve. So what we've done already is pop it down on the cockpit area. Okay, so we've got this one down in here, and as you can see, it's a lot better than what I could do. All right, so it's in there. We've got to paint the seat and everything else, and again, that had a coat of gloss black, that's why it's looking quite shiny. All right, okay, and then on here we've painted the door. Now we haven't done this side, but we've done this side to colour fast it. But what we do need to do, just as that's drying, we'll leave that to one side, is to physically clean out the lines where we want the light to come through. Now I thought the easiest way to do that would be with a cocktail stick. Okay, and what we're going to do is scratch clean this portion. Okay, so we know it's along here, so we can actually just come along now, and even though this has got self-leveling thinners on this, we can scrape clean this area off. And it doesn't matter if we go a little bit too much or anything else like that, because we've got the decal is going to cover it. Okay, so we're just going to scrape clean this all off. Okay, and then hopefully you can see that's that one done, that side. And again, we're just going to come through and scrape clean this side. So even though you've used a lacquer thinner, the acrylic paint is usually very easy to self clean. Okay, so we want to make sure we're all completely clear. And if you wanted to, you could use a little bit of thinners or something on here just to scrape it all away. Okay, so that's on. To be honest, we've got a little bit of overspray just on these bits down in here, so you could use a little bit of thinners, or you can actually physically scrape clean them off. But what happens is these little feet at the back, hopefully you can see them, the light hits it and then they'll shine through these little windows. All right, so what we're going to do, just going to wet a cotton bud just for a final little rub, just to clean up those on the side there like that. Now if you wanted to, you could clean off any of the other ones on this or anything else. Okay, but I think we'll be fine just like that. And then what we've got is this decal is then going to come across and it's going to go right over this one, covering the entire of this. And then again, we've got ones for the little latch height down here in the door, various things like that. But the main one is just to have it come through so we get the light in behind and everything else. But as I said before, what we can do when the decal's on and it's sealed is drew through this and then tiny little bits of clear colours on the back just to do them. But you're better off having this in so you can see those clear colours. Otherwise, you're like, where does where go and all the rest of it, all right? So that's quite straightforward as well. Okay, so this is starting to dissolve just down in here. So what we're going to do is we'll just pre-soak the area that we're going to go, all right? And then we can start to pick these off. And to be honest, it's in this way, but this is this little guy here, and hopefully you can see it's just starting to dissolve, and it will carry on to do so. If I put a little bit more water on him, you can see how it just turns into bits. Those bits go onto these areas, and before you know it, it's made a right old mess. So get rid of those all off of there, and you'll be absolutely fine. Okay, so what we'll do is pop this under here just so we can lift these off a little bit easier. So first one going to go on the top. Okay, plenty of water, and then we can slide this over and down and into the position. Okay, so that's that one in there like that, and then we're just going to come along, and as you can see, trying to paint that, yeah, that'd just be a nightmare. Okay, so a little bit of water again, and then this one is just going to go down in here. Okay, making sure they're all in place. Okay, that's probably there. And again, the gloss will help it grip and everything. Now this has got the lighting rig on this one. So this is the one I'm going to go down in here. And all Bandai decals are very, very thin. So just be mindful of that, because they have a habit of tearing Okay, so because they are thin, which is great because they go down beautifully well. Okay, but downside is that they can split if you just maneuver them around. That's a little bit too much, then they will give up. All right, so there we go. That's that one down in there, just like that. Cotton bud, get rid of the excess. Okay, but if you're not on those areas, then obviously making sure you've got a little bit of water. Then we got this guy here. Go down this back panel. Just grab it. Okay. Making sure that's all down and in. And again, we're not too sure how much of this we're going to see, but obviously we want to do our best with it. Okay, and lastly, got this little guy just down in here. And again, keep the area nice and wet, purely because otherwise, if you don't, and it grips, especially if you're onto a gloss, their decals do. Like this one is properly gripped on. So plenty of water just down underneath here, just to help it slide. And then again, this one's really fighting actually, and I'm worried about tearing it, as I think I've just done, just a little bit just there. And that's what we're talking about with these decals. They are very, very soft. So what we're going to try and do is get it off and place it more accurately on, tapping down. So it's got no overhang really on these edges. And then the same, okay. Just making sure it's down and on, and again we've got this little bit here that we've just managed to break a little bit. And now we're making a bit of a farce, and this is what we're saying about how delicate these decals actually are. Okay, so just be very, very mindful of that, because they do break very easily, like this one's doing on me. So one's really now starting to break up. And again, that's good enough for my jigsaw pieces. So what we're going to do, a little bit of micro sol. Okay. And what we're going to do is a generous soak. And to be honest, this might take a couple of goes just down on here. Okay, so we were saying thin coats and build it up slowly. So there we go. And again, there's no way, I'll show you the other one, there's no way we would have ever got this down in here. And I'm not too worried about losing that three-dimensional look to it, because I don't think it would have done anyway. This one's starting to bite in a little bit now and is actually getting a little bit of a three-dimensional look. This is coat 2 of this going down on here. I did it just before we did the other one. Okay, but I think it doesn't really matter. You're not going to really see it, and I couldn't dry brush it as well as that. This little guy down in here, what we've got is various switches and things like that. We will take care of, and we will do those all by hand once this is bitten in. So again, this is coat 2 going down onto this, and again, it's going to take a few attempts, I think, to get this all to bed down nicely. Once it's had, we'll do more detailed painting or coming in there with very much things like metals for the handles and all the various things down in there. The yokes we need to do in a dirty white colour, various things like that, just to really tidy those up. Also, what we're going to use is a little bit of this, which is the wood tan for the seats, because obviously the seats, they're that tan colour, and then the backs of the seats down in here, which are ejector seats, actually stripped down. I think they're Martin Baker ejector seats, and the back cushions of those and things like that, they'll be done in that buff colour as well. So what we're going to do is exactly the same. We're going to put this decal and we're just going to slap it right down over the top of this guy, get them in there and everything else, let it completely dry off. Once these decals have dried off and they've bitten in and we're happy with them, then what we'll do, we'll come along and we'll give them a flat coat right the way over, and just to make sure the decal then is on the same sort of flatness as the actual paintwork all around it, to blend it all in so we get no silvering or anything else like that. Okay, and then we can actually drill those holes in, get them in, get the colours into the back of it, and actually start to get it together. Okay, so pushing along, looking very nice. You can see we've got the cockpit in now and we've just popped it all in there, and I think really, as you can see, you can't see too much in here, but what we can see is actually quite nice because we've got enough detail going down in there now that we can actually see. We've got those seats and all in there, and it's not looking too bad at all. Okay, so down in there like that. Also at the same time, we've painted on. He needs obviously a little bit more work. We've used just a little bit of sail black and some brown for his hair. Okay, Chewie's been done in a little bit of deck tan colour. Okay, and we're going to do some more with those in a moment. All right, but that's the cockpit decals in and put in there and all the rest of it. So what we've done here at the back, if you can see, we've drilled a few small little holes just to add a little bit of light just to come through, and you might see them in there just sort of poking through. So ideally what's going to happen is we've got the light system which just fits in the back and that's just pushed in, cables wrapped around. Okay, couple of pinpricks of light is then going to come up into here, but also it will go up in these top areas as well. So the idea is then this comes along and you've got the square underneath, this part goes on top and it clicks in, and then if you look here, these two plates at the back just fit in this back area and drop in. All right, so that's in just like that, and as you can probably see, the clear areas at the rear, and obviously when we get the lights coming through, it will all come in there just like that. All right, so we can put Chewie and that in here. If you were putting the crew in the back, so perhaps if you wanted, I don't know, C3PO and Leia or whoever in the back as well, you know, you need to pop them in now because I don't think you'll be able to get in there afterwards. All right, so with that part put in, really that just comes along here and completes this section. So again, we've got these ones in, there's those decals all done, this is that lighting rig put in, just paying attention to how it goes, how the wires loop back as well and everything else, and then it's just a case of this section pushing in the top and coming in. Okay, so making sure all your cables are clear and everything at the rear. The last thing you want to do is be pinching cables and stuff like that, and then all we want to do is seat this down. And again, being Bandai, is that beautiful finish. Okay, now don't forget there is a slight step on this. It is supposed to have it. It's the way it actually all goes together and lays in there and stuff like that, so don't be too put off about having gaps. But now you can probably see in here we are light fast in the back as well. This seals this entire section off. Okay, so that's done. Cables out the back, making sure you've got the right loom for it as well. Okay, so it's a long one obviously, so that's just fitting in the back. Then we can add some of these sections. Now to be honest with you, up here this is one of those areas where you're thinking, are we overdoing it for the sake of it? And what I mean is you've got these beautiful pieces here which are actually very nice, very fine detail, okay, and look no problem at all. And that's what's going to literally wrap around this area on the side. Or you can go down, get hold of it, the photo etch route. So we've got a lovely bit of photo etch down in here and goes in, but looking at the difference, I can't really see any. And this has got a little bit more play to it as well. This has got a raised line, a very small raised line running through it as well. And actually, I quite like that. That's actually not too bad at all. Okay, got a couple of little bits of spread. So we just take that off because we're coming in with there. And then these little guys just are going to come along on here. Now, again, they only lock in one way. And I'm just making sure we have got the right ones in here. So we have a top, a middle and a bottom, and I'm just making sure we have got them around the right way because I can't remember what the parts are now because I've taken them off. All I know is that the middle, the smaller of the two, fits underneath here, so we assume that one is going to come under here. And again, making sure we're in. Okay, and those are going to push in, but you can probably see the detail looks absolutely fantastic, so we don't really have a problem with that. Then we got these, and I am assuming they are going to be keyed, which it looks like they are. Yeah, so this one is going to fit just over here, I think. If it's not, like here, there's usually a very good reason for it. Okay, so this one must be up here because you've got a little tooth out. And it is the thing with Bandai, if you're pushing and nothing's happening, honestly, have a look at exactly what you've got. Alright, so this will be this one on the side. And again, just making sure we're all clear and we're happy. And actually that fits in very, very nicely. And again, I'm thinking if you was to be coming in here with the photo etch part, I can't imagine it's going to be any better than we've actually got on here. So that's actually very, very nice indeed. So that's that one in. If you were doing the photo etch set, obviously you've got a piece down in here goes through this number 2 section. That's going to pin that bottom bit, and all you need to do, as it points out here, is glue the top edge of wrapping it around and things like that. So that's not too bad at all. Okay. Then we've got a couple of little parts to go on here. So we've got W12, which I don't think I've got out yet. Let's just find me sprue. W12, which is this little tiny guy here. Okay, and again, being careful where you cut, because some of them, as it points out, you have to just make sure you're off to the various areas. So this little symbol here, where you can see it's got a little sort of no cut sign, what that actually means is that not to overcut the edges, because it needs to have a little bit of room. So you are left with this little guy here. Okay. That's going to pop in your slot and go on, and technically it's a little thruster. So that's on there literally just like that. Okay, so with those parts in, we can then work our way down in here. So again, cutting these parts off, just don't overcut them too quick. And this is where we're going to play our first part of today's game, called What is this part here? Okay, here we go. 10 seconds, and then you'll kick yourselves when I tell you what it is. Okay, so actually this is the rear plate behind an A6 intruder. So this is where the cockpit would be here in the front, this is the rear, the canopy goes over the back. So this to me looks like the back of an A6, and if I've done my power of editing correctly here, you can see when I did it on one of mine. So we've got a lot of these ones running right the way through the kit, and some of these parts, and as we see them, or as I spot them, I'll point them out to you exactly what I think. But you can see some very nice details in there like that. So what we've got is a few little parts on here. So again, we've got this first one, it's just going to come up the back, which is number, I've got to remember what it is, J8. So that is just going to fit up in there. And again, these are all gorgeous sort of push fits to these things. Then we've got over down in here, which is U1. And again, they're keyed, so they only actually go away. When I say it's keyed, it's like a keyhole. So it's got a round and then a slot. So they only go in one way, so that's that little guy in there. Then finally we've got W over here. I've just got to remember I've got the right ones. Yeah, that's this one just down in here. And this is, I'm just making sure it is the right one. So no, perhaps it's not that one, sorry. So it's W12. We even cut this one off. So it is another W12. So we should have 2 of these. So here it is. It's another one of these at the top. So it's exactly the same as we did the other one. Okay, and that's that one in there, literally just like that. And to be honest, this is one of those strange things, because how many times have I seen the Millennium Falcon, but it's the first time I've actually realised that this part here is the actual back. And when it fits in like that, you can see, because it's sort of hidden in plain sight. I'm an intruder, who knew? Anyway, so that's that section in there. Then we've got a couple of other ones I'm going to be popping all over this one. So first of all, we've got this little guy down in here, which is U21, and he's just going to fit in this top section just in there like that. Okay, then we've got this one here, which is J20, and again he's just going to slot in the top and in the bottom. And you might notice I still haven't used glue on this absolutely anywhere, which is a little bit weird. Okay, and then here we've got this one here, which is U2. Okay, so that one is just going to fit in the top section up here. If I can get him in. Okay, so that is just going to fit in the top up there. Okay, and then flipping underneath here, we've got this little guy as well. And this is U6. And again, that just fits underneath here. Alright, so we can see that's that one in as well. So our only remaining part, and I'm just looking for him now, which we are, would be U2, which is this one here, but ours actually comes with it. So if you're using the photo etch one, this is the part that pins that in, and it would fit in here, but we've already got it in there twice, so we don't need that one. So we just pop that out of the way, and that's that section all in there now, literally just like that, very much looking the part. All right, so with that one in, that basically completes just down in here. All right, and then if we flip over, where are we? So that's that one on. So we've got your canopy top. So canopy areas, you've got a couple of options. We've got the clear one just down in here, and then obviously we've got decals, which if you want, you could actually put those all over there, no problem at all. The beautiful thing about this particular kit is obviously you can do both, but what I really like about it is that we have the ability to do this, which is to do it in the true film form, where it's actually got the situation where it doesn't have any glass in it. That's purely because they didn't want any reflections, because obviously reflections with the filming and stuff like that. So then this little guy will come in here and literally fits on. I've got to do a little bit of cleanup on this one, but he fits in there literally like that. All right, very, very straightforward. But first, what we want to do is just take care of this little guy. So this is Chewy. So what we're going to do is, that we just need a little bit of kitchen towel. Okay, we're going to literally do the wood effect on Chewy to do his pattern of skin, so his fur. So I've got some Abtai lung, we just got some dark mud colour. So we just grab that. Then we're just going to grab a brush. So just a little bit of the mud. We might need something a little bit more red than this actually, so it's actually just going to go down with one, and then what we're going to do is going to add some mud, some red colour over him. But you can see we're sort of dry brushing him, but also we can just pop in like this. And then what we're going to do is come in with a little bit more of a red dewy colour. Sorry, this is ping off. Okay, and then we'll just literally build up some layers onto him, and then we can just pick out a sort of bandolier. Okay, so that's the dark colour, and what we'll do is grab more of a reddy type brown, or a sort of where are we? More of a sort of burnt umber colour. Actually, I wonder if we can just mix in a little bit of red with it. So what we're going to do is just going to take a tiny smidge of this, which is that nice red colour, and then we'll be able to mix the two in together. So for this one, this is literally a little bit of Abtai like flesh shadow. And then what we're going to do is, I'm going to work this in. We'll give up trying to do it that way. So we're sort of streaking around with it. And also you can mix up the various colours. Nice thing about doing Chewy, of course, is that we don't have to worry about skin, faces, or anything else like that. Okay, just do its feet. Okay, so now we're going to rub all of this off. And we're just going to brush over him. To get the sort of streakiness in there. Like we would do a prop on or wood effect, exactly the same technique. Okay, and there he goes. He's done there. So what we'll do, we'll just pick out, we'll do his bandolier, various things like that. At the same time, obviously we've got Han over here, we've done him, very, very basic. All right, exactly the same way. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to highlight over his face just a little bit with this colour. And then all we're going to do is take a cotton bud and we're just going to blend it a little bit. Just to give him some shadows and things and change his face colour. Let's put a little bit of tone into it. And it gives him his shadows onto his face just to give him a more coloured complexion. And then with both of them, what we can actually do is just come along with a very, very simple oil wash just to really go along. A little bit of dry brushing, they'll be good to go. And then once they're sat in here, you've got that sort of pantomime makeup effect as they did on the real things, so you can see them in there. So you want to use things like silvers, you want to use all very bright colours, just so you can see them down in there and stuff. But what we're going to do is let them dry off just a little bit, then we'll come back in, hand paint them. But at any point, the nice thing about this, we can just pop this off the front like this, and then we can go along and we can clean it up and stuff like that. All right, so that's no real problem with those ones. Again, the nice thing about using this one is we can mask the inside of this off with a little bit of tape when we spray the model and for painting and things like that, and it won't affect anything that's going on inside. All right, so everything will be nicely protected and put away and all those types of things. Next up for us, after that, now we've got that section done, we're going to be moving over here and we're going to be doing this first quarter section up here on the front. So we'll be doing the actual starboard side part at the very front of it, working our way through all of these, and obviously we'll do a mirror for the other side, and then it'll be on with the body.